Assalamualaikum everyone. Today I'm going to explain to you some of the common errors that students always do in their essay writing. Please bear in mind that since the examples used in this lecture is taken from your own essays in the first practice, so there might be some grammatical errors in the sentences in the examples. So let's look at the first mistake that students always do. One of the common errors that you always do is ending a paragraph, specifically a body paragraph, quite abruptly. Abruptly here means you end it quite suddenly. Usually I notice most students, they end their paragraph after they have given example. So they do not explain the example and they do not relate or link back. How does the example relate to the main idea given earlier? So they just end it, like for example, yada yada yada, and then you just move on to the next body paragraph. So you need to make sure that you have explained the example and uh, it doesn't seem that your discussion is not complete. For instance, in this paragraph, the student's main idea is exposing children to others' cultures is another way to eradicate racism, right? And he ended by saying, moreover, parents can show them films about the people from other cultures or ethnic background at home, and it seems that it is like an unfinished business, so you have to like have at least one or two sentences before you move on to the next body paragraph. The second common error that students always do is using past tense to state general fact. When you are writing topical essays, you are generally talking about factual information, right? So you don't use past tense. You only use past tense when you are reporting something that had happened, or maybe if you are talking about a historical events or historical fact, or maybe if you are writing a story, then you can use past tense. But if you are writing a topical essays, you are supposed to write generally in simple uh, present tense. Okay. For instance, the first one, just ignore the grammatical errors in this sentence because I took this from one of your essays. So um, let's look at the statement here. Individual crime did not affect the whole races. So if you say did not affect, it means that only in the past, if someone did a crime, it did not affect the whole race. Like if one Malay uh, committed a crime before this, okay, in the past, okay, uh, it did not affect the whole Malay race. But you know what I mean, okay? So so in the present time, you can say that it affects the whole race because you did not use present tense. So that's why you have to use present tense, because when you say did not affect, it only happened in the past. So in the present time, you're not talking about the same thing anymore. So same goes with the second example. Teachers were required to be good. So it means that only in the past, teachers were required to be good. But now in the present time, teachers are not required to be good anymore. Okay, got that? So if you are stating general fact or if you're writing topical essay, so basically you usually write in present tense. Next will be inaccurate linkers. Linkers will be, in Malay we call it penanda wacana, okay, or transitional markers or signals. Okay, we use this to show the flow of ideas in an essay, but sometimes the students happen to use inaccurate linkers. For instance, the word but still I think this is one of the biggest reasons. But here, it's not accurately used because but cannot be used in the beginning of a sentence. So but is usually used in the middle of a sentence. Okay, so do not begin a sentence with but. So same goes with also. Also is used in the middle of a sentence. It cannot be used in the beginning of the sentence. Okay, sometimes you don't use the right plural or singular noun. Okay, for instance, the first one, this is one of the biggest reasons. So you should have more than one reasons. When you are saying one of the biggest reasons, it shows that you are talking about one of the many reasons. Like one of the students. So you are talking about one of the many students. So the noun should be in plural. Okay, and when you are using, if you look at the second example, when you're using the word another, another here refers to singular noun. So another reason without s. Okay, other, we use it with plural noun, like other problems, other students, other teachers, other reasons. Okay, the first benefit, so the first meaning that you're only referring to one thing, so it should be one benefit. So the first benefit. Next is subject verb agreement. Here I'm not sure whether you still remember the grammatical rules. But subject verb agreement refers to if you have singular subject, the verb must be added with either as, es, or ies. Okay, or you use singular verb. Okay, so if it's plural subject, so the verb must be in root word. Okay, for instance, the first example, this is one of the biggest reasons why racism becomes, because racism is uncountable noun, is an idea, abstract noun, so it is uncountable. So it is considered as singular subject. So singular subject, the verb must be in singular verb, which is must be added with either as, es, or ies. So racism becomes. Okay, a teacher, so singular noun, singular subject, so you have to add as to the word need. So it's going to be a teacher needs to identify. This THIS here refers to singular noun. This shows, unless you are referring to, unless the word, the determiner is these, THESE, that refers to plural noun. So then you can use these show. And as we is obviously plural, so you don't have to add as to the verb. So it's going to be as we know. Sometimes students use unclear and unspecific example. I suggest that you try to avoid using the word everything and something to refer to an example. Like teachers need to know everything to be a good teacher. You know, it's unclear. What do you mean by everything? Like everything under the sun? So the teachers need to know everything, like literally everything. So try to be more specific. Give specific examples. In order to stop racism from happening, people need to do something to avoid. So what do you mean by something? Try to give like specific example. People need to do some efforts, or people need to do what, just like give the solutions already. Okay, teachers have a lot of knowledge about everything. What do you mean by everything again? So it's very vague. Okay, try to avoid using that. Next would be using informal or colloquial word or language. So since this is an academic writing, essay writing, so you have to use formal language. So the word kids are commonly used by students when they are referring to children. So try to avoid using kids, because kids is actually a colloquial word that you use in spoken language or informally used. So same goes with bike. So you have to write bicycle. And wanna, gonna are definitely colloquial word. You can only use it in your spoken language, in your speech, but not in essay writing. Missing verbs. So sometimes students forgot to put verbs Okay, for instance, like in the first example, students who wear school uniform will look so good and more confident. So more confident, confident is adjective, so you have to put a verb, like feel more confident to go to school. So same goes with the second example. It can make students proud of their school. So proud is an adjective, so student is the subject, so you have to put a verb. Remember, the simplest sentence structure in English language is subject plus verb, so you have to put a verb. Students feel proud of their school. Then wrong choice of word. Sometimes students, they don't know the right word to be used in a certain context, so they happen to just use any word that they can recall at the moment they were writing the essay or the sentences. So they tend to use wrong choice of words that do not actually give the accurate meaning or the intended meaning as they plan. For instance, students are free to wear clothes that they like. Okay, so free here is not accurately used in this particular context. It is not suitable to be describing about wearing clothes. Okay, the students are able to approach you as their teacher. So this choice of word, able to approach you as their teacher. So the word as here gives a different meaning. Okay, even though I believe that you understand what this person is trying to say, okay, but when you use wrong choice of word, it gives a different meaning. Okay, so racism is the attitude that must be cleared from everyone's mind. So cleared cannot be used to describe or to eradicating racism in people's mind or people's thought. So here, cleared is wrong choice of word. A good example here. All of these are taken from your essays. Yeah. Next would be wrong or inconsistent subject reference or pronoun. Okay, for instance, the first one, the student used the word "their." Okay, "their" is a possessive pronoun, and it can only be used with when you are referring to possession of noun, okay, and with the subject. So in this case, it's wrong. It is wrongly used because you are supposed to use they. They are lucky. Okay, the subject pronoun. Okay. So same goes with the second one. So second one is an example of wrong and inconsistent subject reference or pronouns. So here the students are referring to teachers. Teachers must have common sense when it comes to dealing with our students. Suddenly the student used the word our. Okay, so teachers, at first you are referring to teachers, of course, so you have to use the third person pronoun, right? For teachers, plural, so it should be their students. Why you're using our students? So our, so you are including yourself in the group of the teachers. Are you a teacher? And make sure that when you are using our, you are literally in the group. Okay, for instance, when you are referring to parents, you cannot put yourself in the group, like you cannot use the word our, like we need to take care of our children because you are not a parent yet. Okay, unless you are talking you are referring to students, then you can use our. But usually in essay writing, in academic writing, you don't put yourself into the writing, okay, just to avoid biasness. Okay, so you don't use I or we, okay, in your essay. Okay, you just use the third person pronoun like they, he, she. And the last one would be inconsistent subject reference. Teachers need to make sure their students are emotionally stable, because if we are not aware of this signal, so teachers, they uh, are okay, are accurately used, and suddenly, because if we are not aware, so it is inconsistent and of course inaccurate. Next is using singular subject to generalize. So when you are generalizing a group of people like teachers, students, parents, politicians, um, the society, the public and whatnot, right? So you need to use plural form. Okay, so that's why we use people. People is plural because you are generalizing everyone. Same goes when you are talking about all teachers must have good communication skills. So logically thinking, you have to use plural form, like teachers must have good communication skills. So meaning that you are generalizing that all teachers must have good communication skills. Same goes with students. Students must do in coping with. So you cannot just use singular form because you are here try to generalize that all students must do the same thing. Okay, so try to avoid using singular subject because when you are using singular subject, sometimes you get confused on how to uh, use the pronoun, what kind of pronoun that you should use. For instance, like if you are referring to student, like a student needs to do this and that, and then when you are using pronoun, it's a bit difficult again because you should you use he, should you use she. Okay, so if you just use like plural subject, so it's easy for you to write the pronoun or use the pronoun, which is you just use they are, them. That will be easy. And next, be unclear subject reference. Okay, sometimes when you are writing essay, you tend to just assume that people will understand what or who that you are referring to. For instance, the first one, a good teacher is like a friend that helps us in all our troubles. A good teacher creates their individual learning process. So their here refers to who actually? Are you referring to the teachers? Because in the beginning you say a good teacher, so you're referring to singular person, creates their individual learning process. What do you mean by their individual learning process? So it's questionable there. Same goes with the second one. It is also having a strong communication skill. What does it refers to here? Okay, I took this because in the previous sentence uh, there's nothing being mentioned about it. So and suddenly you use the reference word it. So it is unclear what you are referring to. Remember, the readers cannot read your mind, so you have to make sure your writing uh, is crystal clear. People can understand just by one reading. And the next one is incomplete idea, phrase, or sentence. Okay, like I said earlier, people cannot understand what you are thinking, so you have to make sure that your thought is well presented in your writing. The first example, and the worst is his colleagues. The worst what? So you have to use a noun, put a noun there. The worst what? Okay, it's missing a word there. So it's an incomplete idea. The second one, the last benefit of school uniform is can improve. What can improve discipline? Can you see something is missing there? Is what? Is what can improve? Okay, there's a missing subject there. And inaccurate verb. So the verbs are inaccurately used. For instance, the first one, therefore, if school uniforms are not exist. When you are using action verb, exist is action verb, you cannot use with are, be verb, ataupun is or am, because am is and are, the word after these be verbs, am, is, or are, or was, or were, is either a noun or adjective or the action verb with ing, so the continuous form. For instance, like they are teachers. Teachers is a noun. They are funny. Funny is an adjective. They are running. Running is action verb in continuous form, ing. but you cannot use they are not exist or they are exist. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so you have to use do not exist. So same goes with the second example. Students may not go to school when they are not don't have. See, there are three verbs there. So they don't have, not they are not, they are don't have. So you need to make sure that you understand the function of the verbs that are you that you use. Okay. Okay, that's it. So I wish you all the best for your first test, okay, on essay writing. I hope that you will take note on the feedbacks that I gave in your essays, and also I hope that you learned something from the lecture video today. Okay, I wish you all the best.